Hi guys, and welcome back to Rebellious Menstruation. I'm just going to do a quick video on the sizing of, or how to pick an appropriate size for your menstrual cup. And because a lot of the size guiding on actual menstrual cup packaging is quite misleading, and I think this kind of leads into a lot of the problems that people have with the Diva cup. Is that the Diva cup comes in size 1 and size 2, and size 1 is for under 30s or pre-birth, and size 2 is for over 30s or post-birth. And it doesn't give you a really good indication of the other considerations that you need to think about when you're buying a menstrual cup. The Diva cup was actually my first cup that I purchased because it's essentially the only one that's available in stores near me in Australia. So it was kind of a bit like that seemed to be the only option at the time. And being that I'm over 30, I got a size 2. As you can see, none of these are the Diva cup because I de-stashed the Diva cup to a friend. And so that she could at least test menstrual cups out. I found the Diva cup very firm, and as a consequence found it pushed up against my bladder a lot. And I think this is the problem that a lot of women have with the Diva cup. And the other considerations that you need to think of when you're picking a menstrual cup, the height of your cervix is very important to know, whether you are a low, a medium, or a high. So how that is essentially categorized is, you know, if you put your finger essentially inside of yourself, if your knuckle goes only up to here, that's a low cervix. If it comes up to here, that's a medium, and if it comes up to, like, kind of goes right on in, or you can't feel it, it is a high cervix. I can't feel my cervix most of the time, so I have a genuinely high cervix, which means I can have a longer cup. However, I find if I get a really wide cup, like the Diva cup, I tend to have issues with pushing on my bladder. The cups that I've got here are the Lunette, the Lali cup, the Yuki Rainbow size 2, and the Ruby medium. So these are all of the larger sizes in these cups. Of them all, the Ruby cup, the Yuki cup is the biggest that I have, but it's a really, really soft cup. So this is what I will generally use on my heavy days. I am a really big fan of the Ruby cup. This is a Ruby cup medium, which is the largest size that they offer. And I find this one really, really good, and I also find the stem, I'm not sure if you can see the stem, I find the stem on the Ruby really, really good. This is the best stem I've come across. It has a lot of grip on it for when you wriggle it around. So I found that, and also this stem doesn't irritate me when I wear it, but sometimes this can be kind of ridiculous when my cervix is really, really high, because it does actually migrate quite high in my vaginal canal. But it is still one of the best stems that I've come across. And as you can see with the Lunette cup, I have cut off the stem because it was actually quite irritating. This is quite a firm cup, so I can't actually remember the last time I used the Lunette cup, unfortunately, just because it is such a firm cup. Whereas compare this to, say, the Yuki, and you can see how different the firmness is. I have used the Lali cup the last 2 cycles in addition with the Yuki cup. I'm going to probably use it for one more cycle before I do a review on it, just so I have a really good overview for you. As you can see, I also haven't cut off the stem. But my main point really in picking a cup is I don't particularly have a Goldilocks cup. On my really, really heavy days, I will tend to use my Yuki cup. On the last 2 periods, on my non-heavy days, I have used the Lolly cup, which is also a very, very soft cup. So these 3 here are the ones that I've been using the last couple of periods because they're soft and they don't push against my bladder. I find that this one, while not as big or as wide as the Yuki cup, is still really, really firm and pushes against my bladder. So these are the type of things that you kind of need to consider: the firmness of your muscles in your vaginal canal. So the first thing you really need to consider is your cervix height, and test that out first. The second thing that you really need to consider is the firmness of your vaginal canal. So if you're really, really sporty, exercisey, or you're a dancer or a gymnast, you would probably need a firmer cup like the lunette. If it's not as firm, you'd probably need a softer cup. Some companies also make a teen cup, which is smaller again. The Ruby comes in a size smaller than that as well, as does the Yuki. The Yuki has, I've seen the Yuki small. I don't have one, but my sister does. It is literally really, really tiny. I was so, like, that's probably the biggest diversity in cup sizes that I've seen from a company, whereas the Diva cup has one of the biggest diversities. Has one of the least differences in its cups. Size 1 and size 2 in the Diva cup are marginal at best, whereas size large and size small in the Yuki cup is significant, is very, very significant. I haven't actually seen the other sizes in the other cups to actually really have a visual comparison. So when you're trying to size the most appropriate cup for you, please be aware that what's necessarily written on the packaging is not actually necessarily the most accurate way, or is just not the most accurate way of picking your menstrual cup. And obviously you don't want to be wasting money spending or buying multiple purchases. You want to try and get as close as you can to your, best optional cup. There is another YouTube channel and website called Put a Cup in It, and they have a lot of information on how to find your cervix, and also how they also have a survey on their website, which I think is 8 to 10 questions maybe, that will go over and ask certain questions and then kind of indicates what type of menstrual cup that you should get. So before kind of racing out and getting one, or if you have limited incomes and or limited income to only afford one, then I would definitely recommend trying to do that first, due to the nature of these. Most companies don't accept returns on them due to their intimate nature. And on top of that, if you're looking just to get a selection or a limited collection of cups that actually work for you, you don't want to be buying a lot of cups. As it is, I have already destashed the Diva cup, as I've stated earlier. I destashed a Scoon cup because that was a really weird shape for me. I have destashed an Anytime cup, and so I went through 4 cups before this, 3 or 4 cups before this, before getting these ones, before I realised, oh, okay, these ones actually work. One of the other ones that I did come across that would possibly work for me was the Super Jenny, and particularly for my heavy days. I have spoken about before, when the advantage of using a menstrual cup for your entire cycle sometimes, which I generally don't do, is measuring how much you actually bleed. And for the second day, I'll generally bleed between 60 to 80 mils a period, depending on what's going on. And I have had to switch out my cup twice in a day when I was really, really heavy. So I have bled up to 42 mil in one day, and then over the next 3 days basically got between 1 and 5 mil. So it ended up being that kind of one day took it all out of me. And I used the Yuki cup in that situation, because that's obviously my biggest cup. However, apparently the Super Jenny is actually the largest one on the market. So my advice would really be, do use research first, learn how your body is going to interact with the cup, and then, you know, attempt to purchase the best possible fit for you. Sometimes your Goldilocks cup may not be one, it may be two. And you know, this is the one that I wear on my heaviest day, and I'll wear one of these two the rest of the time when I'm at work. So, and I'm okay with that. That works for me. So just bear in mind that you might not find, and your cervix will actually move throughout your period. So it might drop down really, really low, or it might kind of pull right back. So you might actually require a really, really low cervix cup for day 1 and day 2, or day 2 and day 3, and you might require a medium or higher cervix cup to get you through day 2 and day 3 and day 4. So just be aware that there are other options, and not to, you know, worry if you need more than one cup for your cycle. But do not kind of gauge your cup size based on whether you have or have not had children. It's probably better to gauge it on what type of where your cervix height is first, and then how strong are your muscles. Anyway, hopefully that helped you out, and all of my contact details are down below in the comments, and you can contact me via Twitter, Instagram or Gmail. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.